Nostalgia is a fickle bitch. Usually it causes you to remember something as much better than it really was. But once in a while, nostalgia gets that shit right and results in a game that runs rings around others from that era. It's the 20th anniversary of Halo Combat Evolved this week on Nothing Doing.
Well, look what we have here, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Doc. How are you?
Solid. So we got Thanksgiving now in the rearview mirror. Mm-hmm. We're now on a collision course with Christmas or Hanukkah, the holiday season in general, whatever you celebrate. We're heading there. And
Hanukkah,
could be
Kwanzaa, Festivus, whatever.
Yeah. We're a collision course with a lot of spending of money that some of us may or may not even have, but we're here for it. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was fantastic. Cooked 2 turkeys for a much fewer amount of people than I thought I would have in my home. But, still in the age of pandemic, that was probably for the best. But
and full transparency, I apologize. The wife and I were not able to make it. I appreciate the invitation. We decided normally we get together with my sister-in-law, her sister, every year, and we just sort of just plans and everything lining up just wasn't lining up like it normally does for our schedules. So Allie and I originally decided, well, let's cook dinner for ourselves, and that'll be fine. And then we kept talking about it, and it's just the two of us. Do I really, on my day off, really want to get up that early? And then she works overnight, as you know. So she's like, she's going to go to work Wednesday night, then come home, help me prep some stuff, get turkeys ready, this and that, go to sleep for a while I continue to do what I got to do, then get up to help me finish everything, and then eat. And it just, none of that sounded like it'd be a good time.
Well, no, it's just the two of you. That's not practical at all.
So we ordered Thanksgiving dinner. It was pretty good. And more importantly, it was the laziest Thanksgiving I think I've had in my entire adult life. I spent 90% of the time in my sweats on the couch watching episodes of The X-Files, which was excellent.
We should absolutely cover The X-Files, please.
Oh, on the show. Yeah, I'm not even sure how we would even do that justice, but
I'm just going to start screaming Scully all the time.
Scully! We've been slowly, for years, have been working on chipping away at the files. We are now in season 4, about a quarter of the way through season 4, but it's unfortunate because there's 11 seasons or 10 seasons or something crazy.
They've added 2 more in the last few years.
Yeah. And what sucks but doesn't suck. We're talking OG back in the day TV shows where there's 20 some episodes a season.
26, yeah.
So it takes a while
and they're not half hour. It's not 22 minutes. These are 44 minutes.
They're 44, 45, 47 minutes sometimes. But I tell you what, and this is totally off topic, but we do it in chunks, which is why it's taking so long. So we'll for example, Thanksgiving, we watched 5 or 6 hours of it, which is only 5-6 episodes, which was a good time. But then we kind of burn out on it. We might do that for a day or 2, and then we won't watch it again for 5 months, and then we'll watch another 6-7 episodes, 5 months, 6-7. It's like that.
So you're literally working through it as if it was a real show, getting through maybe a season a year, maybe.
Yeah. But it's been nice because it's so much of the show I forgot about. And I love that show anyhow.
It's so good.
But yeah, for sure. We should definitely cover that at some point. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
A snapshot of the mid-90s for sure. Yeah, I had the exact opposite Thanksgiving. Like I said, I cooked 2 turkeys. But I did I cooked my majority of my food the day before. The one thing that I was super happy about, and I'm not trying to use our podcast to flex, But I traditionally roasted one of the turkeys and did like a nice traditional baste on it. But I threw another one in my big chest smoker, and I stuffed that bad boy full of bacon.
Yeah, I saw you texted me that.
Yeah, and I lifted the skin. And after I rubbed it down with salt and pepper, I put bacon between the meat.
Oh my god!
And the skin on the inside. Yeah, it was quite tasty. And then after it had cooked and everything was done, I let it roast in some of those juices. I took the bacon out of it, crumbled it all up, and I made stuffing with it. I made a Hawaiian bread bacon stuffing. So
yeah,
very good, very flex. It was the most popular thing was that stuffing more than the turkey, but it was fun. But yeah, so have not had a relaxing time. For some people like to sit around and eat. I'm one of those people forced to cook. So yes, this week is my time off. That's my Thanksgiving.
There you go. You've earned it.
Speaking of giving thanks, I give thanks to Bungie for today's topic, which is Halo Combat Evolved. It's been 20 years this month, Doc, since this game came out.
It's crazy how long Halo has been a thing and how it's been a part of like the collective gamer memory. There are adults who only know of Halo. Right? They don't know GoldenEye. They don't know Doom, really, OG Doom or Wolfenstein or any of that. They just know Halo because they grew up with Halo. You and I are very fortunate that we know about a world before Halo and what led to Halo being a thing.
For sure.
Now, for those who don't know, which I feel like everybody who's listening to this episode probably already knows, Halo was a launch title for the original Xbox.
Yeah.
So November, I believe, 15th, 2001.
Yep.
And Halo was made by Bungie, who had a lot of experience in first-person shooters previously with the Marathon series.
I've never played a Marathon. I think I only played a Marathon game when it was re-released on the Xbox for in the Xbox 360 port for a minute, but didn't hook me. So I missed Marathon and Marathon 2.
Yeah, same. I know what they are. I've seen footage. I've seen pictures. I know more than I probably should know about Marathon, having never played it. But no real physical experience. But I know that it was an important part of Bungie's history. And I don't know where your research brought you, but I come to stuff I had no idea about when it came to the development of Halo. That Halo originally was kind of an RTS after Myth, in the vein of Myth, but in like a 3D world.
Well, Myth was their cash cow, they being Bungie for a while.
Yeah. Hold on. We're missing something. I'm sorry. Put a little bookmark on that. What are you drinking?
Oh, so I am drinking the most basic beer I'll ever drink on this show. I'm drinking a Labatt Blue.
That is super basic for you.
It is super basic. I bought a bunch of basic beer from my in-laws on Thanksgiving because those bastards aren't getting my high alcohol content, IPAs and stouts. So I got Labatt Blue, and they all decided to drink wine despite me. So I have a shit ton of Labatt Blue. Now, if I'm going to drink a basic beer, I'm going to go a basic Canadian beer.
Yeah, so, well, that's not bad. It's good beer.
No. It's also the official beer of the Pittsburgh Penguins, a.k.a. one of the only sports ball teams that I ever actually pay attention to. So here we are. What are you drinking, Rock?
And you know, now to the audience, normally when Mr. Brown and I record, we record in person. And I, have myself a beer or two as responsibly as possible. But we are recording remote again. And because of that, I can drink like I don't have to drive anywhere.
Because you don't.
So, because I don't. You'll appreciate this, Mr. Brown. I am currently drinking, will be probably backwards, but I am drinking some Hudson. A very wonderful human being bought this for me for my birthday a couple months ago. Mr. Brown here. It's the Bright Lights Big Bourbon. It is New York straight bourbon whiskey, and I know there are a few people who would absolutely throw me off a cliff of saying that because it ain't bourbon if it's not in Kentucky. I understand, but it's how it's made, not necessarily where it's made. But neither here nor there.
Yes, bourbon's strange because I don't want to be a weird alcohol snob to anybody, but so
it's too late. You're doing it.
Here we are. So you can't call champagne. You can't call sparkling wine champagne if it's made anywhere else other than the Champagne province of France, because that's what alcohol enthusiasts call point of origin. If you have the point of origin, then it can't be certified as authentic. So they don't call it champagne. Same with tequila. You have to make tequila in Mexico to call it tequila. Other than that, it's just agave liqueur or liquor, right? But bourbon, very smartly done by the early distillers in the United States. The United States is the point of origin for bourbon, not Tennessee or Kentucky.
Yeah. And
I've had a very upset about.
He may actually listen to this episode as a Destiny clanmate. Shout out to Bungie and House Vanguard. He and I've kind of had he doesn't drink, but he's from Kentucky, lives in Kentucky. And he and I've had these conversations where, like, I've had that bourbon, Hudson Baby bourbon, and he's like, Is it really bourbon though? And I'm like, I don't know a ton about bourbon, especially at the time. This is years ago. I'm like, well, maybe it's not. But that's what it says. Doing my research, come to find out, it really isn't about where it is made. It's about where it's distilled, where it's produced. Like, not where it's produced, but how it's produced, rather. That's what makes it bourbon. And I was just like, and I came back to him about that. I'm like, yeah, how about that in your face? He's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So as long as it's distilled in the United States of America, you can call it bourbon. So have fun with that little fact. But so you're drinking bourbon. I'm drinking beer. I have to work super early tomorrow, or else
that is unfortunate.
Yes. Well, it's not going to tell people what day of the week we record it, but the day following this is my earliest day of the week. So there's no shots involved. The last time I it was my daughter's birthday when you were over my house until the middle of the night, and she was asleep and we were drinking, and I woke up for work the next morning and I was still very inebriated, and it was a very long day. So
we've all been there.
Yes, we've all been there. Right. So that is not long enough ago in the past for me to forget why I did it. But here we are. So Halo, it's a lot of cool notes, man, about Halo doing the research. First off, I think we should tell the listening audience that no, you aren't waiting for Mac or Jafar to chime in. They aren't going to be on this episode because of either scheduling or also we played this game. To get it there.
Very
we found the time to do it. So it was interesting between playing the game and doing the research on this. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know and a lot of stuff I had forgotten about. A huge thing at first. In addition to being reminded that Marathon and Myth were the real cash cows for Bungie going into this, they weren't cash cows enough because they were in financial trouble because of a glitch with Myth 2, where they apparently, if you installed it and there was a problem, it could wipe out whatever directory it was installed to. And for the PC enthusiasts, you realize that means if you installed it to, I don't know, your C drive, your hard drive, it would wipe it. And the game would not work, and your computer wouldn't work. So they had to recall the game, and that cost Bungie a lot of money, to the point where they could no longer afford to not only finish Halo as it was at that time, but finish Halo at all, or any games at all. They had a lot of coals in the fire that they were struggling. And so they sold part of their library and their distribution rights to Take-Two Interactive, who have make a return, also being known as the publishers of the Grand Theft Auto 3, whenever we were covering that bad boy. And then they still don't have enough money to finish any games additionally. Excuse me. And so at this time, a brand new console was getting ready for release, called the Xbox. And so the head of Bungie called one of the development heads at Xbox and said, hey, how about an acquisition? And Xbox said, yeah. So here we are. But you mentioned really,
I was just going to say, it's amazing how synonymous Xbox and Halo is. It's even though Halo exists on PC, but I honestly don't think I can think of the idea of Xbox and not think of the Master Chief or Cortana specifically. They're so connected to the controller. I could see the controller, any version of the Xbox controller throughout its entire franchise or the hardware's lifespan, whether it's OG to the 360 and so on. I think of Halo. I think of Master Chief. I think of that green armor. I think of the Covenant. I think of the Flood. I can't help but think of the music. It's so well ingrained because that game is so absolutely amazing at what it did. And I found it interesting. And I was kind of mentioning how it was like, the originally Myth was a success, and they wanted to they thought, well, what's better than having like 100 guys kill another 100 guys on a battlefield and doing it in 3D? Okay. Yeah. And they're working on this game. They develop what would eventually become the Warthog, and they start realizing, traversing this 3D environment and these Jeeps, these Warthogs, these vehicles, it's a lot of fun. And they kept just moving the camera closer and closer and closer until they went, this really isn't much of an RTS anymore, more of it's a third-person shooter. Yep. And it just kept getting closer and closer, basically, until you have, this game, this universe, these characters. As a matter of fact, if I recall correctly, when Halo wasn't even called Halo yet, when it was first shown off to journalists behind closed doors with NDA signed, it didn't have a story yet. Didn't have music, I don't believe either. It was like nothing. It was just like, well, this is what the game feels like. This is what it is, but we don't really know what it is yet. That's very that's very Bungie.
It is very Bungie. It's strange. Yeah, in June 2000, less than 15 months or 16 months before the game came out, Halo, as it was developmentally known, not officially titled, it wasn't even developmentally known as Halo, was still a third-person shooter. 15 months before the game came out.
And that's something?
It's still a third-person shooter. And it's weird because it is one of the most iconic first-person shooters ever. It and the series and the games that followed it revolutionized first-person shooters in a lot of ways. You can always kind of give, as we have in previous games, you give props to your Wolfenstein and your Doom and your Quake.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
The Godfather, GoldenEye, right? And then Perfect Dark after that, I'm sure, too. But every time there's the pinnacle franchises that come along and modify that genre into being something more than it was, And it just happened to be that it was Halo's turn in 2001. But it was almost not a first-person shooter at all, which is crazy. Right? It's crazy could you even say it's like the most quintessential accidental game success ever? Because sure, once Bungie asked for Microsoft's money, right? And Microsoft gave it to them. Then they had the resources to finish Halo, and Microsoft had a hand in saying what they wanted the game to be tailored to this new console, this new concept of the Xbox. So it was like a perfect, all roads lead to this thing. But that's a lot of resources and a quick turnaround time for them to turn from what was a third-person shooter with no story and just basic gameplay elements into, frankly, a way more polished and excellent game that it had, knowing these facts, had any business being.
Yeah, you figure they had nothing but experience in like the computer world with Macs and PC, specifically with Macs, actually. And when you play any game on a PC or a computer in general, you're used to having an entire keyboard for key binding and a mouse and, being able to assign different weapons to different buttons. Bungie was tasked with not dumbing it down, but watering the experience down to a controller with a very small amount of buttons. Right? You didn't have the option to store 16 different weapons or 10 different weapons or 8 different weapons. You didn't have that option. You had two and some grenades and a melee. That's what you had. And they made that work so beautifully. You think like if we're not even at the campaign yet, but you think about it, like the way the game controls, the moment-to-moment interaction combat you have is very smooth.
It's so smooth. It's super smooth.
By today's standards, it's maybe not as smooth, but it's still really smooth. The gameplay,
it's arcadey,
aged incredibly well.
Yeah, but it does. For sure. We could hop right into it. The first level, Pillar of Autumn, right? Just how it looks. To me, it's the game. Spoiler alert for my final thoughts on the game. The game still holds up. right? Especially as that we both played the Master Chief Collection, the anniversary remaster, correct?
Right.
So it's been smoothed over and dolled up, and they did a great job of that. But but you can't make the game play differently than it was. So it's a pretty accurate representation where it was. But the Pillar of Autumn was just, I remember when we were playing it for the first time, and it had that sense of hecticness. Now we've been desensitized by many a game that are much more aggro than that game now. But still, I remember being blown away because it was the first person shooter I'd ever played that you're in a firefight and then the game gives you a lull, right? It brings you down, introduces your motion radar, and then flashlight. Definitive flashlight effect, which just brings you into it so much while you're going around the Pillar of Autumn's vents trying to avoid enemies and stuff. But it
getting lost.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right. Getting flipped around. So yeah, super cool. Super cool first level, right? What were your thoughts on the first level of the first Halo game?
You know, my thoughts on the first level, I wish I could remember everything I felt the first time I played Halo.
Right.
And unfortunately, I have no recollection. I just remember I enjoyed it. Like, it was a positive memory, a positive association. However, going back as a grown-ass man, 20 some odd years later, I can tell you that the Pillar of Autumn, I have a list here of like my favorite levels in order. Not in the top 3. It's fine. It's not a bad level. I mean, it's number 5. It's in the top 5, so it's not like it's at the bottom. But it was very going back in it. It was slow, but then it introduces you to the world. I like how it's one of the first games that I remember, a console at least. Matter of fact, I know it is. It's got to be where like you have Marines that are helping you fighting against the enemies. Even if it's futile, even if you know they're going to die, you feel like you are a unified group, and they're looking at you with reverence. Oh my God, it's the Chief! Get him, Chief! Like, I love that.
Go get him, sir. Yeah.
Halo, and this is the thought I had by the time I got to like the Halo level when you touch down. I feel like a one android, one cyborg, one man, one Spartan army. And I love how the Covenant both hate you, but they fear you. They know. They see you. Man, it's about to be curtains.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is for sure. I would even add on to that as well, is that for all of the big, huge first-person shooters that have happened before then, you really, before that, you're the Wolfenstein guy. Yeah, BJ Blazkowicz, right? But we only know that name because we read the instruction book. No one calls him BJ anything. No one calls Doom guy in the Doom games. You're James Bond and GoldenEye, but you're more not being James Bond as much as you're playing through that game in that movie, right? You really get a little bit into Perfect Dark, but there's not as much character building. And same with Medal of Honor and in the first Call of Duty, the World War II ones, you're just private blank in that army, right? Or that kind of a person. This game absolutely decides before you fire your gun for the first time, you are the Master Chief. It takes its time to get you absolutely acclimated with being that character. And so that has a lot to do with it, man. It has a lot to do with the feel. They did that right. My only complaint about that whole thing is this is still a game released in an era where the games came with a book, with an instruction book, and it gave you the setting for the game and all the backstory in this book that you could read through while you're sitting there on your way home on the trolley or in the back of a parent's car or sitting in your living room where you're waiting to play it. So you could get, this alien force known as the Covenant have destroyed a base named Reach, discovering humanity. Humanity blind jumps off into the stars, taking us to the start of this game. That would have been great to explain for about 4 minutes before, all of a sudden you open up on the Pillar of Autumn and you're like, anyway, here's
you have a valid point. There's not a lot of backstory. You just sort of But you get information, obviously. But you get most of your information once you find keys, right? Like it's and even with that, the game moves quickly.
It does.
Story-wise, things just kind of go.
It does. Please continue. No, you please.
I was going to derail us, so go ahead. I'll save my derailing for a little later.
That go pace is one of the only other criticisms I'll give you of this game. That go pace does get the game in trouble because you go so much, and you realize that you've burned through so much content that the game then loves this thing it does where it sends you back through an area. Right?
Yeah.
It loves to do that shit.
I have feelings about that. I have some feelings, and I'm going to put them out there. Okay, so I agree 100%. But I think there's value to that. Now, the reason they do it, realistically, is because of time constraints. Because I think neither of us are game designers, but we both, I think, are adult enough and know enough about game design and development enough to know that shit's not easy.
Absolutely.
And the bigger and more ambitious the game, whether it's a sports game or an MMO or first-person shooter or a shared world game, no matter what it is, the bigger and more ambitious it is, the more checks and balances are involved, the more shareholders are involved, the more bosses and supervisors and creative directors are involved, the more people have to sign off on everything, the more people have to make sure they read that email clearly. There's a lot. And then that's not counting the bugs. And you fix this, which breaks this, which broke that, which fixed that, actually, which no one even knew was broken to begin with. There's a lot to game design.
Yeah, and
Bungie is notorious in a way that is actually, I think, legendary for being behind the eight ball with the development of their games. It's just what they do. There's that old saying that, in game design, you don't reinvent the wheel, but Bungie really likes to reinvent the wheel. And I'm going to try to keep my Destiny references to a minimum, but you kind of can't talk about Halo in any length of time without mentioning Destiny and how important Destiny would not exist if Halo didn't exist.
100%, yeah.
And Destiny's, for a console game, easily one of the most ambitious games that have ever existed, and still persists after 7 years, interestingly. But Bungie's, their biggest strength is their biggest weakness. They're super ambitious.
Yeah.
But I think they're too ambitious for their own good. Right? Yeah. So Destiny does the same thing, especially in Destiny 1, where you play the story through, and then you find yourself kind of backtracking through different areas that you've done before, whether they're like miniature missions, they call them strikes, or so on and so forth. I think the value, and I felt this way about Destiny, and I feel the same way about Halo. I think there's value in retreading a water, even if it's annoying. The value is, for me at least, as the consumer, playing through those first few missions in the beginning. You see the world, you see the game world. Now, think of this through the eyes of somebody who's never played the game before. Mm-hmm. You see the world for the first time. You're learning mechanics. You're learning the recoil patterns, or what weapon does what, or how strong is this against this. On your way back, you are no longer some bright-eyed, bushy-tailed rookie. Nope. You are a battle-hardened veteran of this game on the way back through. You have seen things. You have met the fucking flood. And you are now you look at the game and you approach it. I mean, I know, having not played Combat Evolved having not played the campaign in probably, I say it's safe to say, 18 years. Yeah. Honestly. Easily. Playing it through again that way, I felt a sense of mastery over the environment that I was walking myself back through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because now, before, when you're approaching it, you're being a little cautious, you're like, ducking and dodging. On my way back, I got the shotgun, which, by the way, requires its own fucking chapter. Because the shotgun, I forgot how strong it is. Holy shit. Yeah.
until
That thing has no damage fall off.
until future Halo games introduced the energy sword, the shotgun was where it was. Period.
Yeah, the shotgun destroys everything at almost any range. I'm pretty confident. But anyhow, I felt like it allowed me to appreciate the mastery over the game that I had regained, and I'm sure gained the first time I played it. So yes, is it kind of like a criticism? And it's an incredibly valid and fair one. Yeah, like, well, we're using assets, going back to, would it be great to see more, better, more alien environments on the way back or through the story? But I think it does allow you to have an appreciation for what you did. And they at least changed the context of the situation you're in. I mean, now you're fighting blood now. Now the Pillar of Autumn is destroyed and it's, derelict. It's so there's at least they changed that up.
No, it was risky. It's a criticism because it feels tired, but that's 20 years later.
Oh, very.
You know what I mean? But it was risky, but it paid off because they've been doing it in every single game that they've ever made since then. Yeah. They're like,
I mean,
but
it's smart with the resources, that's for sure, but it's not great for the consumer.
So, I mean, here's the grand question. You have three choices at that point. Do you just not send the player back through your worlds and have a shorter game? 2, do you have more original levels that are less detailed? Or 3, do you just devote a lot of resources to these levels that you're going to make the player go through twice under 2 different circumstances, look and feel as alive as they possibly can? And they did that. They went with choice 3 and it worked. Right?
Yeah, but it definitely works. But it's definitely something you notice.
To be pissed off about the fact that a good chunk of the game is to go activate the Halo ring, and then you realize it's not a fucking good idea, right? And then you're gonna go stop activating the Halo ring.
Like, you literally fought through an army to do this one thing, only to realize it's a terrible idea.
And then you got to fight through an army to go do a different thing. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But so. I something else I noticed playing through the campaign, and this is kind of in line where we're kind of talking like Cortana. Mm-hmm.
I love that character.
Oh yeah,
I love how complex she proceeded to become over consecutive sequels.
Oh, the most complex character in that whole series. Yeah,
but I love. And again, having not played this game in so long, I forgot almost everything. Dialogue, there's little bits I remember once I heard it, but I love just like how sassy she is towards the chief, like straight up.
Oh, she didn't like him very much in the beginning, yeah.
No, I totally forgot her, like kind of not disdain, because that's a really strong word, but like she just looked at him as just not a grunt, but like just a gun with a head on its shoulders. Like she did not appreciate the chief, and I love that they were able to make that relationship become something special.
They do in the course of the game. Yeah, he looks at her as an annoying Navi, essentially, like an AI version of Navi, and she looks at him as a weapon that she has to talk to. There's no difference.
She has no choice but to talk.
Yeah, there's no difference between him and the Pillar of Autumn to her in the beginning of the game, and it's an interesting dichotomy. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's really interesting too that we've had so many AI characters and AI circumstances happen in games afterward that have done it differently, but she is the first mainstream game to make use of a central character being purely artificial intelligence that isn't a villain. Period. Right? And it's the first game to do it.
I believe you're correct.
Yes.
I believe you're correct.
She's your babyface. She's your ally on that. So it's very interesting, and I think it helps with the narrative because it is easy, and it's not as easy now because we're all adults. We played far more open scale games, but at the time especially,
right?
It is easy in a game that new on a console that hadn't done what Halo had done, and a rendering in a way that hasn't done, to kind of get lost in the game for a minute, not physically actually lost, but to get to how she pulls in that sense of urgency that they want you to have at certain times when she talks to you as you're running from the flood or dealing with a covenant, versus where you could just get lost in some sort of endless narrative-less firefight. She's talking to you and she's driving the point, which is interesting. And another, just to kind of let into another aspect of the gameplay, that one last little character thing is a really unique character is Guilty Spark. 343.
Oh God, yeah.
Right? And
Really
so here it is.
character.
Here it is where you essentially have 5 characters in this game that speak and any kind of real need to each other, right? You have Keys, you have the Chief, you have Cortana, and you have Growthy 343 Spark, right? And we'll talk about there's 2 robotic characters or AI characters in the game, and they could not be more different. And
really,
that's cool. That's cool character design, right?
Yeah. I think Guilty Spark is just a really cool concept because it's clearly insane.
Oh yes,
just absolutely mad. I don't know if it was mad before or after the Solitude, but it is mad. I love that. I think it's the library. It's the library where you are absolutely being mauled and flooded by the flood, trying to stay alive. And Guilty Spark just casually making its way through the facility, and you're just following it. And it's just like, humming to itself practically. Yeah. Just, look at this over here. And you're just like, stay away! Could you go any faster? That's probably one of my favorite parts.
It is frustrating. It's one of the only escort missions in video game history that I don't hate, is the library.
What's your worst? What's the one you hate the most?
All of them.
I already know mine.
Which one? Hit me.
God. The control room. In GoldenEye.
Yep.
With Natalia.
Yep. I think we talked about this on our Nintendo 64 episode. Yeah. Shout out to 64.
It's in the archives. Listen to it. It's funny. And I was quite intoxicated during that episode. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, now that we're like 20 episodes later, we recorded Nintendo 64 immediately after the marathon that was the Montreal Screwjob. So, and we had been drinking intensely during the Montreal Screwjob. And by that time, it was already the middle of the night. My wife was already mad at me. So I thought, fuck it, let's get Nintendo 64 in here. And we did. And it is noticeable, at least to me, when listening back to that. It is super noticeable.
Oh, man. Yeah. So that's my least favorite. And because, and that's the beauty. Halo does so many things correct. Mm-hmm. And granted, Guilty Spark can't be killed in that mission. It's not like, you're trying to keep it alive, but you're trying to keep yourself alive. You're trying to, because the Flood, they don't fuck around.
No, the Flood absolutely do not fuck around, which is such an interesting thing that we'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah,
but they do not. They do not. I think my least favorite escort mission. I'm gonna cheat. Excuse me, and I'm gonna go ahead and say, that would absolutely be GoldenEye for escorting. But I also hate defend missions where like defend this character and buy yourself time while this person does this thing. I hate that kind of a concept, right?
Yeah.
Once in a while, great, but one of the most ambitious games that I've ever played, probably I would even label it all time, is Fable 2. And there is a series of defend missions. It just seems to happen during the story mode of Fable 2 a lot, where this person's like, I gotta summon this weird random magical gate. And the entire game is gonna send every bad guy you have ever fought, and 3 copies of them, at me for a long time. And it just drives me crazy. It's like, it's like 25 minutes just straight defending this person, summoning a thing. It gets fucking just wore out at the end of the time. You're just like, you can pause your game, go take a shit, get a sandwich, come back, and you still got 15 minutes of defending left. It's brutal. But I think, I was going with Guilty Spark, and we talked about Cortana because, oh my God, I don't know. I'd love to do the research. I didn't get this far into the research to figure out which motherfucker on the Halo development team came up with the Flood.
Somebody who was hurt when they were young, I assume.
Yeah, I don't know who hurt you, sir, or madam, but you're going to be okay. That being said, how badass is the Flood?
So, I'm going to pose a question to you then, because I've been wanting to talk about the Flood. I said earlier that I remember very little about my first run through Halo, as it was a long time ago. But man, I remember where I was sitting. I remember how I was sitting, what TV I was using.
Yep.
I was living with my parents, and I'm sitting. I had this like little stool thing that I made in woodshop in high school, and I just fucking never got rid of it. And I would sit on it when I gamed. Because it was just high enough that I wasn't uncomfortable. I would sit right in front of my fucking, that's probably a 32-inch TV I had in my bedroom. Boob tube, the wide son bitches. Yeah. The old TVs that were heavy as shit.
I remember.
When you moved.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's enough of those things made to where they slow down the rotation of the Earth very slightly.
I remember, because you see like the footage, and you're like, because you watch like the footage of the Marine that was killed, and you're like, oh shit, what's all that? Wow, okay. But to see them coming at you, and like this weird, it's like they don't make a lot of noise.
No, climbing over each other.
They're just coming at you. And I remember just going, whoa, assault rifle spraying and just backing up and going, what is this?
No, see, yeah. So that's one of the notes I have about this. First of all, I want to 100% absolutely agree that I remember where I was and the entire setting when the Flood made their appearance on my TV screen for the first time, because it is one of the top all-time oh shit moments in video games. Yeah, because the pacing that happens right up until then, and it draws you in, and then unleashes one of the scariest monster ideas ever. It's like if someone's like, zombies are scary, but they're not zombie enough for me, right? Let's make it horrifying, right? And then let's have it barrel at you. But the thing everyone I've ever discussed this about with, and it's also so glad that you point that up, is that the Flood are coming at you. They come crawling over and barreling at you and creeping up on you with not as much noise as they would make in later games, or even would be surprising. But you didn't turn around.
Mm-hmm.
You backed up and faced them to fire at them because you were so locked in the moment that you couldn't look away. Because if it was going to come for you, you wanted to see it happen. You wanted to
look him in the eyes and try to kill you.
And that's one of those things I've been so like in those movies where a character is just terrified by this large Lovecraftian thing that they can't look away. And you're like, whoa, come on, motherfucker, move, go.
Yeah.
No, here, the Flood, you instinctually go like, whoa, and you start spraying and you pull back on that stick and you are going. God knows where you're going, but you're going. To get away
the Flood. I'll bring up something that just kind of clicked in my head as we're talking about it. We spend hours playing this game a very specific way. Yeah. Because the Covenant attack you in a very specific way. They take cover, they hide, they run when they're outnumbered.
It's strategic.
They attack you logically. So you oftentimes are the aggressor. You charge them. You are effectively the fucking Flood for them in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. You go at them, and unless it's one of the big boys, or where you kind of have to backpedal and try to shoot them in the back to one-shot them.
Hop your ass around the map a little bit just to try to get some.
Do the Halo bunny hop around the map. Mm-hmm. But for hours, that's every single combat engagement is the same. You throw a nade, you engage. You hop around a little bit, you shoot them, you take them down. But the Flood completely turns the muscle memory you now have is now turned on its head because you are no longer the aggressor. You can't, because they're way more aggressive than you're ever going to be towards them. And they are just coming at you uncontrollably. And I think it's smart. I don't even know if, I'd like to believe that the developers all those years ago, 20 plus years ago now, when they were figuring out all the stuff, figuring out how combat engagements work, I would hope to believe that somebody or a group of people sat in the room and said, okay, and then when they deal with the Flood, when they're pitching the idea of the Flood, it's going to totally change the combat experience. And the player who spent the last 4 hours playing a very specific way is now going to have to freak because they're not going to know what to do with it. Like, you don't know. You don't know how to approach it because this game has now taught you for several hours to just throw an aid, engage. Bunny hop, engage. Now the Flood is telling you, get the fuck out of Dodge. Yeah. Go back. Because they're just going to surround you. They're just going to keep surrounding you. No matter what you do, they're going to keep coming.
I thought absolutely. The game does train you. And what's interesting is it's just like in any kind of standard game progression, man, right? You're fighting grunts and a couple of elite. And then you get, more advanced elite and brutes. Everyone starts leveling up and you're like, this is the natural progression of all video games, right? And then just when you get your hands full of very high-powered Covenant enemies, all of a sudden the game thins out and then you're scrambling from the Flood, and it's to the point where you are grateful to fight the Covenant. It's like the game gives you that
a little bit.
Oh, I'm gonna make you feel real happy to fight the guys you thought were the bad guys about 5 minutes ago.
You have a very valid point because you spend a good chunk initially fighting the Flood for a while, pretty much primarily, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, oh, by the way, go play. Then you get a point where you have to fight them both at the same time, which is really cool too.
It's just super cool. Which I think is, before we start getting into our favorite levels, I just want to talk about it because it's the number one favorite level for me.
What's that?
The Maw. No, because the Maw is, to me, it's one of the first games I ever could think of, maybe first levels. The only other one could possibly be GoldenEye, where you're trying to shut down the satellite dish upload, right? Where you get an actual legitimate sense of urgency, of panic, of complete this or die.
Or die.
And it's like that there. And I love. Here's the interesting thing too. I hate missions where they say, protect this person. And I hate missions where it says, defend this point until this upload is complete. But I fucking love Halo for being the first game I can ever think of to where it just says, survive. Yeah. Right? Like that kind of thing. Like, just live. You'll know it when you live.
When they stop coming. You're good. That's a very good point. And Bungie's good for making missions where it just says, survive.
Survive.
Like, shit.
That's that
Bungie, be like that
Bungie thing. You're like, god damn it.
And I'm going to give a shout out to Bungie in general because Halo's not a quirky game. It's very straightforward action first-person shooter in a sci-fi world, but they make the game quirky in very just basic ways, like little. Not chapter headers, because like really the every mission has its own chapter, but like little subtext down there, the little like I could have been your daddy, or just little as you go to a new area, the little text at the bottom of the screen gives personality, gives you an idea of what's happening now. I forgot all about that. Like, really forgot about that, and how it's the first game that I think I can remember that did anything like that. It just
for sure.
It gave the game personality where it didn't have to. It gave the story. It gave this little universe you're in personality. It made it a smartass in a way.
For sure. Oh no, and I think there's also, speaking of personality, we completely blew past the most unique, at least when the game came out, the most unique aspect about the whole damn game, which was the fucking Halo world, the ring world, the seeing off in the distance, to see the horizon go up. And it takes your brain a second the first time you played it to put it together.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly cool.
Agreed. I do remember that. That's one of the other things. I just remember kind of like looking up, and then kind of looking down and around, going, "It's real." And I remember for a split second as a kid going, "Can I go all the way around this?" No, you can't. But no. It was cool to think that. Which actually, cool. And I know at some point we're going to talk about favorites and least favorites, but that kind of leads me to like my least favorite mission, which is the second one, Halo. Fucking hate it. I didn't like it then. I just still don't like it. It is number 10 on my missions. It's just
for the bad reasons. Yep.
Boring, and it's just boring, and I get lost, and it takes too long.
Yeah, well, no, to me, I would also say it's my least favorite mission in the game, but it's excruciatingly important, I think, for you getting comfortable in an open area. Does that make any sense? No, for all gamers, and we can't put ourselves back in our 2001 shoes, but it's because before you're in the Pillar of Autumn, there ain't much jumping around. There's not much exploring. You're pretty straightforward going through the Pillar of Autumn until you land on the surface of the Halo. Here, it's like, okay, well, this is the kind of direction you're going to be in store for the last 8 levels of this game. So get familiar with it and be confusing and try to jump on these logs and shit. But to me, it's like tutorial part B. You know what I mean? You get tutorial part 1 on Pillar of Autumn until you start getting really into firefighting, and then the game takes a break and you just fight, and then it picks back up with Halo. And it gives you a tutorial until you assemble all the Marines, essentially. You know?
So there's 2 things. Well, 3 things. 1, I agree. Totally. 2, thinking about the first mission, and you may have mentioned it, and if you did, I apologize. I mean, it's very, default, basic first-person shooter environment. Corridors, tight spaces.
Up to that point, very specific, yeah.
And then it just drops you, like you said, in very open space for the time for a first-person shooter on a freaking console, for really anything. And it can be jarring, and it does take some time to get used to it. But the other criticism, not even a criticism, it's an observation. And it started as a criticism for me when I was playing through, and it became something that I kind of miss. The game doesn't really tell you where to go.
And not as much as you want it to. Not as much as you want it to, which I think is where Cortana comes into play.
What I mean is, like, I would get lost as a kid, and now as an adult through certain levels, because I'm not sure where the fuck I'm supposed to even go.
Yeah.
Like, it's not explicitly clear, because for like the last 15 years now, games have, in a way, been dumbing themselves down more and more and more for us, where there's just like waypoints. There's a little thing on in the distance, go there. You can't figure the shit out, go there. Because at first I'm playing Halo back and I'm like, fuck, where the fuck do I go again? Fuck, which way? Was I just here? Did I pass where I was supposed to go? Was I supposed to go up that hill? Wait, did I go up that hill already? Did I come down that hill? It was a lot of that at first. Yeah. Because I'm so used to games just kind of holding my hand a little bit and going, hey, go this way.
Towards navigation, 100%.
However, back when we were growing up, when we were coming up, games weren't really like that. And so that was normal, to not be given a whole ton of go here, go do this thing over here. Yeah. And I think that, I kind of miss that now. I think think it through.
There's a certain something missing with that. Like, not the Switch franchises, but a lot of what they call themselves on the internet, purebloods in the Elder Scrolls fandom, point out how hard it is to find anything in Morrowind. Like anything. You have to read, you have to not only read your journal, but speak Middle English to be able to understand where you're supposed to go. Whereas Skyrim, the most financially successful of all the games, gives you a waypoint. And you're like, oh, this is the door I have to go in, right? And you follow it through. And so there's pluses and minuses. But I do miss certain points of that. I found it frustrating in certain aspects, but other points too, you weren't thinking about it because you're too busy fighting for your life, or it's clearly obvious that this is where you're supposed to be because there's bad guys here and I have to kill them. Right. But on the other aspect too, I think the games did that by design, not because they were like, oh, we need to make ourselves tougher. But
it was just that was just normal, right?
I would also saying that it was a development trick, because if they didn't tell you where to go, then you would take longer to get there. Therefore, their gameplay was extended without doing much of anything else other than not helping you. Does that make any sense? On a game that has
Absolutely.
10 levels, if you're going to dick around for 3 of them wandering around a facility or a field,
and you did,
then the gameplay takes longer for you to complete. It's just kind of where it goes. But so yeah, I also agree with you that Halo is my least favorite episode. I think the Truth and Reconciliation isn't much better, right? But it's certainly better than the level Halo, right? But that's
so that would be like when you're like number 9 or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So fun fact, that's my number 2.
Number 2 favorite level. Interesting.
Yeah. I like it. I just love that it's at night because there's not a ton of missions at night. I love the sniper part. I love PE sniping. I love you're sitting in the bushes and just bam, and just slowly taking out enemies. Well, I love how that mission you're with, that mission. You are with the Marines. You
feel like you have allies.
The UNSC. Yeah. You are a unified force. Most of that mission, actually the entire mission, I'm pretty sure, and you're kind of rolling with them forward. It feels
not until you get to the end of it when you're really looking for keys. Do you separate yourself from the group?
Yeah,
right. And at that point, yeah.
But that's definitely my second favorite mission for sure. I just love that.
I would give it my 9 because I like all the other missions better, but the difference between it and Halo is light years. You know what I mean, as far as that level and stuff. But I don't want to go through each individual. We've mentioned 4 of them, and there's
as we currently are.
There's in there, right? I thought it was super, super, super cool. Let me just say my favorite, since we've both covered our favorite. What is your favorite episode mission, by the way?
343 Guilty Spark is my absolute knockdown favorite. It's so good.
Number 2 for me. Just because of the reveal of the flood is so
it's
good.
Just the ambiance, the music, everything about it's just foreboding leading up to this. Like if you just listen to the music leading up to finding the flood, it's just you can tell the game's building to something. Yeah. It's building to something where you thought this entire time you were fighting against, militarized, religious, fanatical race of aliens. No, you're fighting fucking Ridley Scott's aliens. Yeah. This is a totally different game that you thought you were playing.
You would wish for a xenomorph at this point in the world because you're going to understand a xenomorph, right? For sure. I think the only reason I rate the mob higher is just because where I feel like we are, it's 343 Guilty Spark is such an amazing level. And I think it is such a fantastic reveal on the flood. But I feel like you're so reactionary in that by purpose, by design, right? I think the Maw has that same level of, oh my God, what the hell is happening? But you're still driving it a little forward, right? And when you're on your way to destroy, I love the subject line on the Maw, which is destroy the Halo before the Halo destroys all life in the galaxy. Like very simple. You're like, oh shit, there it is.
This is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's a real big deal. But I think a hidden gem, the number 3 for me on the list, on the top 3, would be the 2 betrayals. That level, the 2 betrayals, is like an absolutely. I think because at this point you are used to the flood. You know what I mean? You went through the reveal. You went through the library to look for the index, and now you're realizing you're being manipulated, right? And that entire concept. And so now we've taken. Here's the world building. Here's the premise with the flood and with the humans and the Covenant. Now we've introduced the real shit with the flood. And now it's not just shock anymore. Now we're going to sink your hooks in and tell you the story. And that's the mission. You're like, all right, fuck it. I'm invested. Yeah. And now I want to shoot this little fucking robot in the face, but I got these little things gnawing on my ass, and there's still aliens pissed off at me. And where the hell is
2 Betrayals is really good. It's actually way down my list of favorites. But it's not I judge these missions. It's all subjective, right? So music, ambiance, variety of the mission. What am I doing? But 2 Betrayals gets a nod because it has that really cool cutscene in the beginning where, Cortana and 343 have a little face-off. And I love Cortana's just like pissed. like,
like realizing that he's
what the fuck are you doing, man? You've been listening to this guy this whole fucking time. But here's the thing, God damn it! If Cortana had taken 30 extra seconds to just tell Chief what the fuck was going on earlier in the game, maybe his reaction to Guilty Spark would have been a little different. But she fucking didn't. She goes, "There's no fucking time. Go."
So now you realize at that moment where she stops you just in time, right? And this is where the game is you're like, okay, so the thing you've been doing, you can't do it anymore, and you got to do the exact opposite, and you've done fucked up, and now we got to stop it, right? So now you have to fight. Here's the thing: it's you and Cortana versus the Flood, the Covenant, and now the Sentinels sent by Spark to knock your ass out. And really sets up that world building. To me, that's why. And plus, I really like the idea, just like you like Truth and Reconciliation for being a night level. This being like, I think the only other night level in the game, right? It's snowy, and I like that snowing kind of a vibe to it. Yeah.
You know, I'm with you. Truly, I just feel like some levels were way too goddamn. And I feel like that one was one of them. It's kind of one of the reasons why it's kind of low on my list. It's not bad. Again, not bad. Let me pull up my note, because I wrote something about this. Hold the fuck on. Talk amongst yourselves.
I will talk amongst myself. We'll get prepared there so we can switch on to aspects that didn't age well, which I think is next on our format.
There's a few of those.
Yep.
There's a few of those. Not a ton, but there's a few.
The one note I have, I'll just kind of add into it while you look through your notes. The one line is my favorite line in the entire damn game. Okay, it's So it's like when Chief is like, the flood is spreading, right, and we have to activate the Halo's defenses to wipe them out. And the Cortana's like, "Do you have any fucking idea how this thing works?" And then she starts to go, "It doesn't kill flood; it kills their food," right? Which is my second favorite line.
That's so good.
It's so good. It's so good. And then she explains the whole thing to Chief, and Cortana like kind of signals over towards Spark, and Chief turns to Spark and he's like, "Is this true?" And
like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He pauses for a very expressionless robot. Goes, "More or less." Like, that's so heel. It's so subtly like
that whole cutscene was
it's like getting stabbed at the Red Wedding. You're like,
God, don't get me started. That whole cutscene was so well done in terms of it really clearly it shows you that 343 is not a good thing. It is a bad guy. It is a fucking villain. And how it casually is like, I mean, you've been helping me this time, motherfucker. What do you think was going to happen?
It's like, you knew what this was. It's like, no, I didn't. It's like, now
you did, though.
Now I got to deal with parasitic zombies. Now I got to deal with a technologically advanced and much more numerous alien religious zealot force. And now I got to deal with a goddamn Roomba that has thoughts of genociding the entire galaxy. That's gone crazy.
It's a bad day for John, man. I
waking up to that. I think at this point he's been back in the world of the living for 24 hours, 36 hours at this point.
Something like that.
Harsh vibe for him at this point. So
I maintain that because there aren't a ton of real cutscenes in this game, that's the best one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the best. That's just 100% the best one.
The gameplay in 343 Guilty and the Maw are better levels. But that's the story. That's why if we're around that our top three, that's number 3 for me, easily.
So did you? I know I did. I'm sure I know for a fact you fucking did. Did you, like, while you were playing the game, like, just casually switch between OG and Anniversary?
Yep.
Graphics, just consistently, just like, what does this level look like? And you know what I found interesting? Honestly, I mean, obviously textures were way better now. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of levels that, lighting-wise, look way better in OG.
Oh yeah. I think once I got to what's the level between, not the library, because that's after 343 Spark. Hold on, let me look at my notes. What's the level? Because I switched back over.
Assault on the control room?
No, the silent cartographer. The silent cartographer,
Okay.
when you're looking for the map, I found that I just liked playing in the OG graphics better throughout the entire game. And it took me into that place. Now, whenever the flood showed up, I think it was the library, I switched them back to see how they had reskinned the flood. And I found
They look so much better now.
They do, but they were more terrifying. And I found it easier to think with them looking shitty. So I went back to the shitty looking things. But yeah,
that makes sense.
It's a cool feature that you can have it deskin. You know, you're not stuck with it. Which I
didn't notice. Dude, I didn't even notice until the mall. Actually, took me fucking hours to figure this out, or even notice. Better yet, is that the audio is fucking different when you switch back. Didn't even fucking notice.
Yep. Well, the flood don't make that kind of noise whenever you're in the OG thing. So they added flood noises too in the remaster, the same noises that they make in Halo 2 and in Halo 3. They added those into the remastered Anniversary Edition, in which the flood are a very silent enemy in the OG edition.
Fucking terrifying, man. They just fucking come running at you, and there's just no stopping them. Speaking
of graphics, that's a good segue into things that didn't age well. And I have one note. I have
just one
note. One thing that is bothering me, and it bothered me in my instincts from the very first mission until the mall, until the end of the game, and I never got over it. Halo is definitely super influential in the echelon of first-person shooters.
Oh, absolutely.
But there are just certain control schemes that I have gotten instinctually used to, and I kept finding myself throwing fucking grenades when I'm trying to look down the edge of my gun the entire goddamn game. I had very little grenades throughout the whole game because I kept instinctually going to hit the left trigger to zoom in so I can get a better shot, and shit. And now I'm in a close quarter situation throwing grenades at people. Goodbye, Marines. That's my major thing, is that, like, if you're going to update the game, and this is the thing, that control scheme, I think we universally have kind of gone with that left zoom in, right? To fire kind of a thing. And I think this second thing we didn't have shoulder buttons. We had the black and white button.
Oh fuck! I forgot. Oh my god. Oh, my brain you unlocked memories.
We had black and white, and then when they redesigned the Xbox controller to be from that loaf of bread with buttons on it that the original one was to the S-Type, which would be the absolute precursor for the modern controller we've had for the last 15 fucking years from Xbox, the S-Type. They moved the black and white buttons into our left and right bumper buttons. So
that's right. I forgot all about the black and white buttons. Like, how did I forget about that?
But you can't. I was thinking, all of the changes that you made in the Anniversary Edition and the Master Chief Collection, and you can't fucking give me a map where my left trigger is to zoom down the goddamn barrel. Like, really? Like, that's I got to be clicking that sticking. No. That's my one complaint about it, about things that didn't.
So I mean, I have that problem because when I hit left trigger, it zoomed in for me.
I'm all pissed off now. What did I do?
I'm just letting you know, brother. I don't know if maybe shout out to Baron Fireborn for this. He and I were talking about, we were playing Halo Infinite, which we're going to talk about before the end of this episode.
Okay.
There's like, I don't know if I had because I downloaded the Master Chief Collection a long time ago, and I started a game for Combat Evolved years ago, and I just didn't finish it. I started it and just was like, nah, I'm good. I just wasn't like, I was not in dialed in as I would hope to have been. So when we started here, I started fresh again. But at some point, I had to fuck with the controls and chose a particular layout because I did not have that problem whatsoever.
For the viewers and I don't think I'm ever going to put this on video, But if I did, and you can see me, my body language is I'm pissed because I spent I swear every time I ran out of grenades, I fucking paused the game and looked for a way to change the thing, and it never did. And all the control maps, it's like Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3. You hit the schemes and it's all still left trigger, fucking grenades. And
no, not at all, man.
I am unbelievably salty right now. It's not even.
Matter of fact, grenades were. Hold on, I'm doing it like right now in my head. Grenades were right bumper.
Okay.
Right
Nope.
bumper.
No. I'm saltier than a fucking Christmas ham right now. That's how mad I am.
I'm sorry, but I am very amused by this. But my heart goes out.
It does.
So,
you know what? Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best Master Chief here for a second.
That's not to be good.
First of all, double kill. I gotta do that. That's my standard.
Yeah.
To the person who made that control scheme in my Xbox. Fuck you.
One good one for the episode.
One good one. I've been scaling back. I want them to mean more, as I tell them here.
Less is more, man. Less is more.
Less is more. And we also haven't mentioned Bad Boys 2, so I haven't been riled up in 3 weeks. I don't know what they do.
Fuck that movie. Yeah, agreed. Anyhow,
keep that name out your mouth.
Shitty ass movie.
What didn't age well for you?
Oh man, one really specific thing, and I'm actually pretty impressed you didn't mention this, because I thought for sure this would have been on your list. It's a first-person shooter, guns and aliens, and no sprinting.
I didn't mind it.
Let me tell you something. I'm so used to sprinting in first-person games that not being able to, first 2 hours of gaming was so frustrating, and I kept thinking about it. Like I would sprint in here and slide and throw a grenade at this point, but I fucking can't. I can't sprint. I was so convinced that I had created a false memory in my head that you could sprint in Combat Evolved, that I was convinced that there was a way to do it, that I stopped fucking playing and started Googling how to sprint in Combat Evolved because I was convinced that I could, until I realized, no, I never did. And I was so happy that we as a society and as a species have progressed to a point where we can sprint.
In modern games, I couldn't imagine playing that without the sprinting, especially because I know you're a sniper guy. I typically, when I play like Battlefield or something else, I play as the medic class, right?
Yeah, same.
So
it's the best class.
Oh, for sure. So I'm sprinting around and sliding and trying to heal people and basically do that thing I couldn't imagine. But in Halo, I've just found, in Halo, the first one, I found a lot of the game was too close quarters, and the enemies in such a way to where I didn't feel like I didn't miss it. I think only when the Flood show up was I looking for it, right? But I wasn't taking my eye off them unless I had to. So I'm not sprinting backwards. I'm just spraying and praying, dude. Spraying and praying to get through this damn level.
Sprinting was a thing. And mantling, but mantling is like, I'm used to mantling not being around, unfortunately. Most first-person games, especially old ones. But yeah, the sprinting was such... Even towards the end, I still found myself trying to sprint away from the Flood. And I can't. And I'm like, fuck, that's right, I can't do this. Turn around, gotta fight. Because it'd been nice sometimes just sprint away for a second, get your shield back, rethink your strategy, and go back in. Now here's my question: What was your loadout? What was your go-to 2 weapons? That was like 1A and 1B.
And we'll mention this in a second, especially when we talk about multiplayer. But here is a fun fact about me in first-person shooters. I am not a big machine gun guy. I don't like machine guns. And this was this is one of the few other memories I have of playing Halo for the first time, or that area in 2001, especially multiplayer in 2001. I like the pistol. The pistol is my go-to anti-Covenant weapon. right? Like that is because I feel like I'm still to this day, I'm more accurate with it. I take less shots. I can hit you in the dome with it. It took me until about 5 seconds. First of all, in Pillar of Autumn, it was easy, but as far as the distance and the Halo and Truth and Reconciliation, by that point, I was like, okay, I got you, right? See a homie on a log. When we pull out the pistol, it's the best ammo conservation. So my loadout is 1A, the pistol, which technically is your secondary weapon. And I do begrudgingly play as the battle rifle or the assault rifle, whatever I can get my hands on, until the shotgun shows up. And then the shotgun is for when the flood get close enough.
Oh, man, because it one-shots everything.
Yeah, and your screen is toast at that point. The bottom half of your screen is certainly toast, right? So it's pistol and shotgun for me. And whenever one of them's out of ammo, I guess I'll go with the assault or battle rifle. But you can find a pistol on every Marine in the game. It's like every dead Marine, and there's a lot of them. Spoiler as the game goes on. You can pick your pistol back up if you ran out of ammo. But for sure,
I love how Halo. It's such an old game. Like it does the old trope that games still do. I don't know if they do it quite as often or so blatant, where like you go into an area and there's just a lot of health and ammunition lying around, and you go, nah, some shit's about to go down.
Yep. Shit. That's what to me. That's always. I taught my daughter this as we are currently partnering up and playing Ocarina of Time. She's watching me.
Now, where are you guys at? Now you told me about it a week or two ago.
Yeah, no, we still finished. We're still dicking around in Kakariko Village after beating the Great Deku Tree because she just wants to talk to everybody. She's learning to read, and so she wants to see every sign and try to pick out the word she knows. And then, of course, because we have the sword now, she wants to cut the sign up and was learning the targeting system, which I can't wait until they have the 64 controllers for the Switchback in stock so I can teach her the majesty of the Z button.
Oh my God, the Z button.
And how that thing will change her life. But I've shown her in the Deku Tree. I'm like, all right, we got a boss coming up. Look at this. And just like clockwork, there's jars there. And they're going to give you everything you need to beat this boss in here. And it's going to be the same way. As long as you pay attention to these jars, it will tell you what the trick is to beating these things. Oh, it's Deku nuts. And it's, and boom, slingshot ammunition. Let's do it. We figured that one out real easy. So trying to, but that's what they still do it in Halo. You're like, ah, shit.
Yeah, like it's like this moment where like you're running. All right, the flood's back there. All right, thank God they're gone. And you're like, all right, you look, and it's like it's not just like, oh, here's like maybe you're out of ammo. No, it's like there's a lot of shit lying around, like more than normal. You go, let me just pick this up and pick this up. Shit, it's about to get real. Well, my loadout was just flat out the assault rifle and the shotgun. It just the combination against the flood was so effective because I spray little fucking face huggers as quickly as I can with the assault rifle, and since the shotgun has the fucking range and damage fall off of a sniper rifle practically, I could fucking one shot shit way really far away with the shotgun that was coming at me. And can we talk? So again, things about the game that I did not remember, and I'm like, holy shit! How did I make it through this game with like my sanity? The fucking flood guys with the rocket launchers, the RPG.
Forgot about them.
Fuck them. They one shot you.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Not cool.
It's where the bunny hop comes into play. And you can't bunny hop in a straight line. You have to bunny hop like back and forth, and it's in like a hopping serpentine. It was the only way that you're going to get through this goddamn game alive. And for that, and it's 1,000%, the rocket launcher guys were the single most frustrating enemy in the entire game.
They can eat a dick. They can, and the fucking the fucking elite. The fucking there's one, and I just swear I didn't write it down. I should have wrote it down. What mission? I think it was the. It's there's one
on the on Truth and Reconciliation, aren't you? Right,
no.
The big brute.
No, that's an elite, not a brute. It's an elite.
Oh, no.
It's before Keys. It might be the two betrayals, actually.
Yeah.
There's like a part where like you clear an area, you turn a corner, and there's a fucking elite with a sword,
Yep.
And he one-shots you and it took me I'm not ashamed. It took me like 4 attempts to get that guy. Because fuck him.
Yep.
I turned the corner. I'm like, I tossed a nade and try to go in. And like, apparently the nade would have bounced and missed. And he's just waiting for me with his fucking sword. One shot. Motherfucker. Yep. I'm like, I beat this shit before. I can fucking do this. How many times did you say that to yourself? I fucking did this 20 years ago.
Oh, so many times.
What's going on here?
I found myself.
How am I fucking up here? Wait a minute.
As you know, and I didn't mention to our listeners, I beat I played Halo in 3 sessions. That was it. I played Pillar of Autumn and Halo, and then I quit. And then the next time, I played through the entire part of the game until the Maw, and then I quit. And then
that's a serious sit down.
Yeah. And then the next time I played just the Maw, and the Maw. I got so frustrated. I found myself standing at points. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
one of your old game.
I got this fucking game.
Yeah, for sure. What I figured out real early in the game, and it was one of those things, sometimes you resort to your own tricks, was to trigger people into following you backwards, right? When you go in and you trigger the encounter, and then you back out again, and then enemies would one by one, as they go through their moving programming, they would come back and find you. And then you could pick them off a little bit more. And that elite, I know exactly what you're talking about. And all I ever did was just move fast enough up and then move back. And then he got a shotgun straight to the chest. I think it took 2 for him, right? Because they hop from side to side. So damn well. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's talking about, here's a good transition. Hopping from side to side. One of the hallmarks of this thing isn't just the single player campaign, which again is amazing, and it is what it is. But it, to me, this is just to me, is one of the last great, maybe Halo 2 is the only other one, console only first person shooter multiplayer games. And in the vein in which GoldenEye started it, playing 4 with your friends, and Perfect Dark perfected it, playing with your friends and your bots. Halo was the last one that was only ever, period. I'm pretty sure Halo 2 wasn't online, was it?
No, but Halo Combat Evolved get a PC port eventually.
Yeah, right, and then you could play, but in the console version of it, you had just you and 4 friends.
Yeah, it was just you
and 3 friends,
and it was the first time you could do like that. I remember at least. I mean, it was a launch title, so probably no, it couldn't have been. There was a system like you could do, which I only took part in the system like 2 times ever, and it was fucking amazing. But normally it was like you did the split screen, and that's what you did. But I'm envious. I know a number of people who did system links often and did straight up LAN parties. Yeah,
one time for me, and I can't. I'm sure I don't. You'll be able to tell me real fast. It was either with you or Vandergrift.
It wasn't with me, man.
When it was Vandergrift,
it's not with me.
So
you and I have never done that. That I remember.
That was the time. Of course, I think too with the assumption of Halo. I think most of the games we ever played against each other are wrestling games, and there ain't certain links available at that moment in time. But PvP was incredible, dude. The levels in that game were so cool at the time. Well, hit me. What's your favorite level? If someone's talking serious shit, the way that Gibby and I talk to each other about video games, and like, I'll let you set up your loadout in your fucking home world to show me where you are in your home turf. What's your home turf? Where you at?
Blood Gulch.
Sweet. OG level.
Now to be fair, though, I was a big fan of Sidewinder 2 and Hang 'em High, but I'm a Blood Gulch guy. I just love the open space of it. I can't tell you how many little duels I had with just one other person. Because I'm not a fan of the 4 split screen deal. I've never been. I hate it. I can never. It's just hard to focus on what you're trying to do. But 2 people, more manageable. You can see more. You can take in details, more information.
Yeah, I think Blood Gulch and Sidewinder are probably the 2 most iconic levels in the Halo PvP, because those are ones you think of, And oh my God, do you immediately think of? I mean, I think those are the two main levels you can use the whatchamacallits in the Warthogs, right? Yes. So driving around with people, and that's just cool as hell. Super cool as hell.
Derelict is good. I'm trying to remember some names. Derelict was good. I enjoyed Derelict. There's so many maps actually.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. But you mentioned my favorite, Hang 'em High.
Hang 'em High is good.
If someone's like, all right, you have to fight to save the human race against someone in Halo PvP, but you get to set the rules. We're playing pistols only on Hang 'em High. That's what we're doing. And that was my go-to. That was my go-to. And I would always, no matter how much someone was whipping my ass, and game after game of multiplayer, I knew I had a shot with pistols only and Hang 'em High. That was my thing.
Which adds to, I mean, man, like the effect that Halo had on not just PvE first-person shooters, but PvP specifically.
Yeah,
Halo is MLG, man. Like Halo is esports to me. It's still and Halo 5 maybe not the greatest state with esports, but man, like Halo 3, Halo 3 just was competitive first-person shooters to me. And it all started with Halo, you know. Like I remember sitting in like we'd sit in my buddy's living room. He has his dad had a pretty big screen TV, and we'd sit and play Halo, 1v1 each other, and people would take turns jumping in and like 1v1ing each other, doing little tournaments sort of deal. Because it was just I never played anything quite like that before. Because you know, with GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, it was a good time, great time. It was the building blocks to get. Wasn't as advanced as that is, yeah. But it wasn't just the movement, the plays you could make, like water, something else entirely.
Yeah.
And custom games, man. Like God.
Yeah, that was huge. That was super huge.
Custom games is such a big fucking deal.
And Perfect Dark was sweet with it, but Halo took it to a whole new level. For sure.
Yeah, like and just Halo, the franchise in general, love letter to Halo and a lot. I mean, just you know, SWAT, Oddball, Griffball, like it just so many Infected, and I unfortunately didn't spend a ton of time like consuming all Halo content ever made. I would play the campaign. I definitely played the PvP, especially when Xbox Live became a thing. But I wasn't into speedrunning. I wasn't into collecting all the skulls. I wasn't into getting out of bounds like a lot of people probably were. I know a lot of people
were. Not my style either, yeah.
But the fact that the Halo community is so vibrant and so Forge, for Christ's sake, Forge. The Halo Forge is such a big fucking deal. And that's a conversation we're going to get to about Infinite very soon here. Just Halo, it is the first-person shooter.
Yeah,
and what about Call of Duty? And I can say a lot. Or Battlefield, I can say a lot. But if Halo was never created, I'm not sure what first-person shooters would look like today.
No, and there's a lot of things that Halo changed. The big thing I want to say, and I'll make it now before we get to the lasting impact of Halo, whenever we probably inevitably close out the episode, is, and this is a big subtle thing, but so Halo is to me not only the last bastion of your fantasy first-person shooters, whereas because I think you have two staples here in a grand scheme of first-person shooters. You have Wolfenstein 3D, which started the human versus human first-person shooter, and then sprinkled all kind of weird shit on top, and then Doom, which is human versus fantasy, human versus non-humans in the grand scheme of combat. And I think Halo has taken years later and run away where Call of Duty, Battlefield, a lot of that stuff, right, is humans versus other humans. Historical factions, futuristic factions, but you're still people shooting other people, clearly shooting other people, right? And in other people's settings, where Halo and Destiny are like the two bastions of here's a person shooting a largely non-human or not people. And if it does, it doesn't really take place in people's familiar settings. So I think though Halo is a first-person shooter and it's aggressive, it's not as hyper-violent as the other games in that series are, because they're not mimicking real warfare and real soldiers. And I think that's why Halo, it has such an impact on e-gaming, because it's a lot easier for you to turn on and see a person hopping around unrealistically shooting an alien than it is to watch two people shooting very realistic renderings of other humans in a town that you pretty much know, right?
Yeah.
In that idea. And I think that's that last bastion of just because violence is a part of humanity and we like to make video games realistic, doesn't mean that we need to make realistically violent human depictions in video games. I think Halo and Destiny are those anchors of those two.
Interesting enough, they're both made by Bungie.
Yep, there it is. On purpose, they're holding it down. But speaking of Bungie holding it down, tell me about how's Halo Infinite treating you?
So I'm assuming
I've ignored my beta invite so far just now because I wanted to focus on beating the first one.
I will tell you this because you also have Game Pass.
I do.
Which is still, call me a shill all you want, audience. It's such a good fucking gaming.
It is.
So I guess you didn't know. Last week or the week before, Microsoft 343 just opened up it's called a beta. It's not really they're calling it a beta, but it's not a beta. But the multiplayer is live to be played.
Yeah.
And the gameplay, excellent. It feels great. There's some current misgivings with the battle pass and progression, stuff that's fixable, but the moment-to-moment gunplay, God, the new weapons they have are fucking ridiculous. And I hope you and I can play that together, some PvP soon. See dust off your Halo skills and see what you got.
I did once I beat, as a treat myself to beating them all that night, I went in and I played on the Master Chief Collection. Because you can really be very specific with your matchmaking. So I only picked maps from Halo, Halo 2, or Halo 3 and multiplayer. And I got my ass annihilated, but I didn't come in last place. Let's put it that way. So I would love to play. That'd be super cool. Yeah. But I'm glad you're impressed. Do you think having you played Infinite and me not, but we both just played the first game, do you think the future Halo's looking in good shape as we move into the next console? So here's the deal with Halo Infinite. By the way, the game comes out less than 2 weeks, which is really exciting. Comes out December 8th, which is super close to us, as we are right at the end of November. Yep.
From what I've watched some videos because some outlets and journalists and YouTubers have had the ability to play the first 3 or 4 hours of the campaign, and they're all saying good things because it's a bit more of an open world system now, and it's if I recall correctly, it's not. I thought I was afraid to be more Far Cry, which I was not a fan of the idea of. It's not. It's still very open, but everything that's open is kind of optional. There are outposts you can liberate, or soldier Marines you can free. But the game looks good. I think since this is going to be it's a live service game, which is, we'll see if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because if it's a live service game, that means we're not going to get a Halo sequel for a while. You know what I mean? But that could be a good thing. We'll see how 343 and Microsoft support the game after launch. I'm really excited. Here's the big bummer. That's what I wanted to get to about Forge, and more specifically, co-op. I don't know if you heard this.
No.
But no co-op or Forge until fucking May.
Oof.
Because you and I, we dig into some shit.
We do.
Not anytime soon. Yeah, and I am not excited about that.
Summer game series for us in 2022. Playing Halo Infinite co-op.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking for. I mean, I've 100%. I'm already planning on talking to my boss about getting taking the 7th and the 8th off next month because the 8th, the campaign for Halo drops, which is a big deal. I want to dive into that as soon as it uploads, which will be, I think, 1 p.m. Eastern time. But the day before, December 7th, is the Bungie 30th anniversary celebration in Destiny.
Oh, nice.
And they're doing a big thing where there's some new activities, some new armor sets that are inspired by Myth, Marathon, Ani, and their rumor is there's going to be some weapons and armor and ornaments inspired by Halo as well.
Ooh.
So I'm interested to dig into that. So that's back-to-back gaming I need to get into.
And you can get it's going to be a wonderfully tasty early December for you. But lasting impressions of Halo, man. What do you think this game's legacy is going to be? As the quintessential first-person shooter of at least of the modern era?
I mean, goes without saying. I mean, you can. I try to keep a pretty close eye on gamer Twitter. It's the only reason I even have a Twitter, honestly. Mm-hmm. And there are more people who've never played Halo before in their lives who've played Infinite and went, I didn't realize what I was missing.
Nope.
This game is a lot of fucking fun. And I'm thinking to myself, you have no idea. You haven't touched the PvE side yet. You don't even know. You don't even fucking know. Now, to be fair, Halo 5, not an awesome game. I did not enjoy the game. I didn't finish
I have had it since probably 6 months after launch. Never put it in. It's because it looks better on my shelf than I would probably give it credit for being. So there it sits.
Yeah. But if you put a gun to my head and said, "Hey man, what's the lasting legacy of Halo?" And I'll just say this: disagree or not, everybody's entitled to it. But I feel that it is first-person shooting. It literally is it. It does not get, and its Combat Evolved was not fancy. It wasn't over the top. It was, you are a fucking killing machine. You are the Master Chief. The fact that his title is Master Chief says something, right? Mm-hmm. Halo, its ripple effects will be felt until we're dead and gone, I have a feeling.
Oh, for sure.
And that says everything you need to know about how important Halo is as a franchise, right? We said earlier, like, what would gaming look like if it just stayed an RTS? If it wasn't even Halo, like,
it would have been Halo Wars.
Like? Yeah, like what Call of Duty? Will Call of Duty even exist in the form it does?
Not in the intensely. I think you have to say. I think you have to give Call of Duty the credit it does for Modern Warfare, taking that online gaming very seriously at that time and being on the forefront of driving that. But I don't think without Halo forcing the franchise of Call of Duty to step up and also putting Medal of Honor down into the ground at that point, right? Leaving that there's only two for a while. Without then Call of Duty, Modern Warfare comes out and it's real. And in Halo 3, they're like real straight up neck and neck, right? And in history, as far as the most important games to ever come out, as far as first-person shooters go, because where I think Modern Warfare was super influential to gaming now, I think every year a new Call of Duty game comes out. Every year. And they just go back and forth between 3 or 4 things. And it's what it is the Madden of first-person shooters. It's just a reskin, reprint, improve upon a new zombie level. Yeah. Cut, print, dry, go. But Halo, every time a new Halo game comes out, with the exception of 5, because I haven't played it, so I didn't know what it added to the franchise. Every time a new Halo it comes out, it changes the landscape of first-person shooters. And you better believe that Call of Duty and Battlefield absolutely pay attention to it. And I'm sure Infinite's going to influence the next gen of Call of Duty and beyond.
Yeah, I think,
and I'm going to last and say, without Halo and without Halo's multiplayer and Halo's style of multiplayer, I don't think we get PUBG and I don't think we get Fortnite, which is a completely different conversation for a completely different day.
I think I'll leave it with this. I think Halo is the foundation that all modern first-person shooters have built upon.
Yep.
I mean, more specifically, all console, specifically first-person shooters are built upon. They laid the groundwork for everything that we play in a lot of ways when it comes to first-person shooters.
I would say that Doom invented the game of baseball. I think GoldenEye created the concept of the league, and Halo is the one who invented the concept of like hit the home run, right? Like without those two, it doesn't happen. But because of the third one, it's the beast that it is now. And never to come back.
I'm gonna drink to Halo. I'm gonna drink to that
Halo,
franchise. Drink to Bungie for making the game that we are talking about 20 years later. Thank you guys for that, and all the men and women who really worked unnecessarily hard on that damn game. And there's a conversation for how much was cut out because they were able to make a second one because they weren't able to finish Halo in the way they wanted.
Yep.
And the same with 3, as I understand it. But
yeah,
anyhow, to Bungie and to Halo, to Combat Evolved,
to Halo and its legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of legacies, our legacy on this goddamn podcast keeps moving forward. And as we begin, this is it. We're done with November. And now we're moving on into December and our holiday series. Join us next week as we watch, Doc, your favorite Christmas movie of all time.
Yeah, we're going to be covering A Christmas Story. And I'm really looking for. I have not, I as a kid watched it every single year around Christmas time, at least 3 times. I've not watched A Christmas Story. I actually don't know how many years it's been, so I'm really looking forward to one, finding somewhere I can watch it or stream it, or even I have to buy it. I'll just buy the damn thing. Mm-hmm. And so we can sit and talk about it, but I'm really excited about it. And then we're going to cover Scrooge, which is yours, and which is on my, I'd say like my top 3 favorite Christmas movies of all time. Scrooge is just a fantastic movie.
I think here's an interesting thing that I agree with you. And it's, to me, it's my favorite Christmas movie, but I think it's the second best version of A Christmas Carol that exists. So it's kind of a weird thing to say. It's like, I know it's not the best version of Christmas Carol, but goddamn it, I love it. And the cast is amazing. And it's got a whole great vibe. And then we move on. The third part 3, chapter 3, the Return of the Jedi of our thing, if you will. We answer the age-old question: is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Which we all feel strongly about this, but we're gonna come up with a concrete answer after, I'm sure, 9.5 hours of debating or just telling about how much we love the movie.
Yeah. And then, I'm excited about that because I haven't watched that movie also in probably well over a decade. I watch it once a year. Die Hard 3 is my favorite of all of them, so that's the one I watch. I watch considerably more, but I'm looking forward to finally digging into Die Hard again and like really enjoying it. We're then around at the end of the month, we're going to do our favorite movie soundtracks, which will be an interesting experience. It's going to be different for us, but I think we'll tackle it well. Yeah. But I want to kind of push a little bit and give the audience a little bit of a heads up on January. We're going next year now. First week, we're looking at the 2010 Monday Night Wars, the TNA, and the WWE, which will be really interesting. That really infamous night. The following episode, we're going to do like our PC gaming roots, which I've got to do so much research on because I can't fucking remember, but I know it's there. It's in there locked away.
Well, it's also worth saying is that, in a lot of ways, this is we're only touching movies and movie/soundtracks for the rest of the year. It's all we're done with wrestling and video games until 2022 with this episode.
Yeah. And then we're going to we're still, the end of January is still nebulous, but we are going to definitely do Black Holes and Black Holes. How does it go? You know the name of the
Black Holes and Revelations.
There you go. Black Holes Revelations. There you go.
From Muse, which is just a QR singular Peruvian sexual German listeners. And as strongly as Doc feels about Linkin Park, that's how strongly I feel about Muse. So we're going to get into that shit.
I'm really excited about listening to that and digging into that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate everyone letting us babble on about Halo, and we hope that this. You know what? Normally, I'm like, I want you to share. Maybe this hopefully inspires you to talk with your friends. Fuck it. If you listen to this podcast and you have an Xbox, God damn it, go find a copy of Halo and play it because it's worth it.
Get Game Pass. It's fucking $15 a goddamn month.
$15 a month, and you get so many games.
A lot of shit, which includes all the Halo games, Master Chief Collection, all of it. It is worth the money, even if you only dig into less than a quarter of the games it offers. It's worth your fucking money.
100%.
And we
are not paid by Microsoft, but as someone not yet, right? But as somebody who constantly, until getting Game Pass, I was one of those people that I constantly bought games that I never really play. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll buy this game and I'll play that game. Then it goes on the video game shelf, and then whenever I have time to play games, I play the same 4 goddamn games I always play, or the ones I'm still working my way through The Witcher, right? Because I don't have time to get.
Who isn't working the way still through The Witcher?
Right? So, but I mean, Game Pass now gives me the ability that instead of looking at a CD, and it's that very active. I've sat down on my gaming station and I look over at the game rack, and I'm like, oh, but I got to get up and put the disc in. But on Game Pass, I'm like, up over to it, and I'm like, I'm going to download these games. Let me add these in my play later. Shit. I don't even know what this is.
So,
let's play it.
Before we sign out, I want to ask you a question. And so, feel free to say no to this.
Give me consent.
I've been thinking about this since the last episode. Because here's behind the scenes here. Noah and I communicate quite often throughout the week.
We are friends.
Yeah, we are actually friends in real life. So we talked about an idea that you wanted to do. We've been talking about this idea really for months now, off and on. And we just recently came up with a title, a name. And I'm really excited to at least mention this to the 3 people who might be interested in this subject. And you know where I'm going with this.
I do, and I'm gonna let you take the lead on it. Go for it, buddy.
Okay. So I multiple times have mentioned in different episodes how there's some subjects that we'd really like to cover we haven't really gotten around to. Noah and I have had multiple conversations about doing just that, but doing it long form.
That's right.
So it's going to be this is not something we're going to do till next year. I'm not sure when next year, but next year. This is your
E3 teaser. Todd Howard is marching out on the stage just to let you know this thing exists. But we're not going to give you any more details other than here's what it is, but we're not going to tell you when it comes.
Yeah, soon. It's done when it's done.
Eventually.
So what we want to do is we want to start a new more content for you guys. And right now it's in the wrestling form, but it may end up being something else eventually over time. But we're going to introduce a style, a new segment, new episode called Nothing Good Legacy. And we're going to cover very specific characters, feuds, performers in professional wrestling initially in longer form over the course of several weeks on top of our regular Tuesday uploads. So it's something that we've been wanting to do for a long time. It's something we've talked about a lot ad nauseum. And like I said, I'm not sure when we're gonna even drop this. We haven't even started working on it yet. I haven't even started research on it because it's gonna be a fucking thing in itself. But we're going to. Can we mention? Would you like to say who we're going to cover first?
We'll get there in a second, but I just want to give the listener a little bit more deal. So this will be in addition, as you mentioned, to your weekly content. It will be on a separate day launch.
Yes.
But we're going to do something different production wise, as opposed to recording it every week as we do. To keep it truthful here on the podcast and doing weekly installments, likely this whole thing will be recorded and edited down into whatever digestible format we choose it to and finished probably long before we ever choose to release it. Just so that we know it, but it will be an additional thing, and it almost like a supplementary. But I think the biggest complaint that we have with ourselves, and certainly our wives have with us on this show, is that we can take things that no one else but us cares about and get into hyper specific, hyper point driven things. You've probably heard the way we break down a pro wrestling show, right? Or even a film. This is going to be way worse than that. This is going to be, we're talking about, who knows how long we'll spend talking about 5 minutes in wrestling history. Maybe we'll do other stuff. Maybe we'll do movies. Maybe we'll do some sort of TV series. That might be a good way to do a TV series.
TV series would be a good call.
But I will leave it to you, because it has been probably the most talked about hypothetical subject we've mentioned since the start of the show. So why don't you, to end this big teaser, let the fine people of Peru and Australia know what our first Nothing Good Legacy anthology will be about.
It will be about, in my mind, and I will attempt to convey that to you wonderful people when we cover it. In my mind, top 3 greatest feuds of all time in professional wrestling history. And that would be Bret Hitman Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin. 96, 97, a fucking year, basically.
Yep.
We were going to talk very long form about that feud and how important it was to professional wrestling in general, because it really was on so many different levels. I've been wanting to talk. It all started with Montreal. We spent a lot of time talking about that feud. You know,
all we did was like paintbrush over it. Nothing specific. So, only as specific as we could to give narrative to Montreal. Yeah. But now we know. Now we have a little bit better idea what we're doing. So yeah. So we're excited to go with it.
Every episode we're gonna try to cover different shows, pay-per-views, Raws, specials. Go through the matches, what made them special, why were they good. I think the people who like professional wrestling are going to really enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it. So that's just a little thing we want to kind of pass along and kind of put a bug in your ear. It won't be anytime soon, but we are currently in like kind of the incubation phase of this idea. So I'm really excited to add more content.
We have the ability to do it, and we just want to wait until it, deserves all of our attention, all the attention we can give it. And that's in addition to the same thing you get every single Tuesday right here, wherever you're listening to podcasts for. Now join us next week. We're going to be talking about Christmas Story. I'm excited to see which of our cohorts.
I'm super excited.
Joins us for that. I know Dave has a strong feeling. Mac has a very strong feeling about them. I don't know if
Jafar does not like it.
No, I don't know if Jafar has feelings. So we're gonna see how all of these things line up as we get going on. But we want to thank. I want to thank everyone for listening, checking it out, and especially absolutely. A big shout out to the fine people in New South Wales, Australia, who have really been picking it up lately and listening to the show. Thank you very much. I'm not going to offer to whistle into your butthole the way I would if you were Peru, but I just want you to know that if you keep going this way, well, then I guess there's in your very near future, my friend.
Oh. So uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's only if you don't like it, right?
Oh my God. But yeah, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter, Nothing Good Pod. That's at Nothing Good Pod. We're on Facebook. You can find us on all of pretty much wherever you can get a podcast and listen to it. You can find us, as you know. Please tell your friends if there's somebody in your life that is kind of a wrestling fan or a sci-fi fan or a gaming fan, somebody who's around our age, late 30s, mid 30s, even early 30s. Tell them about the podcast. We have a good time here, and we welcome everybody to laugh with us and enjoy life. And thank you so much for being a part of this journey we've been on for the last few months. It's been awesome. We're getting a lot of downloads. We're getting some good positive feedback. If you're on Apple, please throw out a positive rating if you feel inclined to, if you think we deserve it. We appreciate it. Negative one, honestly. Fuck it. I appreciate your opinion. Otherwise, thank you so much. Stay safe out there. We will be seeing you for the next episode of Nothing Good when we cover A Christmas Story. But yeah, thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Nothing good.